Hello, welcome back. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. Good afternoon. I'm Cheryl Todd. I'm Director of Information, um, sorry, Design and Academic Technology at Meredith College, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'll be moderating this session, Virtual Event Accessibility. A few notes about the session. This session will be recorded and will be available to registered conference attendees after the event. We are offering professional captioning services and American Sign Language ASL interpretation during today's session. You can access the settings and turn these features on or off using Zoom menus. Please use the Q&A, question and answer feature to post your questions. You'll have the option to post anonymously if you prefer. If you experience issues with Zoom, please email tap@wfu.edu. That's TAP@wfu.edu. Someone will be monitoring that email and quickly will get back to you. Please remember to complete the survey after the session. I'm pleased to introduce our session presenter, Chelsea Porter. Chelsea is the head of digital accessibility at UNC Chapel Hill and uses pronouns she, her. Chelsea has been in North Carolina higher education for nearly 20 years as an instructor, web professional, and digital accessibility consultant. She has been with UNC Chapel Hill since 2020 and the Digital Accessibility Office and rose to the head of the office in 2023.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Cheryl. Let me change my screen share over here, and then I get to play Zoom Tetris, moving my windows around. All right, thank you all so very much. Yes, my name is Chelsea Porter. I'm from UNC Chapel Hill. I'm the head of digital accessibility here. I am a white lady with straight gray, brown, and purple hair. Can't really see the purple, but it's in there. And today we are going to be talking about virtual and hybrid event accessibility, thoughtful and accessible virtual event tips. The key sort of takeaway from this entire presentation is plan ahead. Don't wait until the day of. There'll already be some gremlins in the system the day of. So you want to try to prepare as much as you can in advance for any events that you are putting on. So some topics that we're going to be going over, being a thoughtful presenter or host, knowing your audience and environments, co-host jobs, length of event, audio and visual considerations, so sound quality, descriptive language, captions, transcripts, annotations, polls, chats, screen sharing, and then know your tools. What tools, what platforms are you working with? What tools are you going to be sharing out to your audience, and know some of the settings available to you there. So the first thing, and arguably the most important to any accessible event, is you got to have help. We have a proverbial army behind the scenes over here today, just running to all of the stuff going on for today's webinars. We have two people in the background in addition to the presenter for each session, helping to manage all of these non-presenter interactions that are going on, such as spotlighting, monitoring chat, sharing resources like we've been doing throughout the entire presentation, starting and stopping the recordings, supporting our interpreters and our captioners in case they run into any technical issues, and just overall attendee troubleshooting. These are things that you want to take off your presenter. Your presenter is there to do what I'm doing right now and to talk about a specific topic. And even the best multitasker is going to struggle with all of the things going on in especially large events like this one. But this also goes to where I mentioned assign in advance and plan in advance. So, for example, for this webinar today, we have an entire document that we have set up that outlines what each person's supposed to do, what each person's supposed to say when they queue up stuff. And we've practiced it, we've looked over it, everybody knows what they're working on. We talked about all of it in advance. It's not something we waited till the last day to do. So just trying to cover any potential issues before they might show up. Because like I said, those gremlins are going to come and get you the day of the event regardless. We want to try to plan before them just in case. So something we've been doing a lot today that you're probably seeing and being able to interact with are spotlights and interpreters. So each time a presenter is talking or a speaker and a moderator is talking, we have folks behind the scenes who are highlighting, or spotlighting is what Zoom calls it, their videos to make sure that their videos are showing up for all of the attendees. You can also use spotlights for interpreters, but I know Zoom has it's a newish feature. It's about a year and a half old now, but where it will take your interpreters and have a whole separate window just for them. So if you all have not had the opportunity to turn this on yet, check your Zoom menu bar. And there should be an option there for interpreters. It looks kind of like a globe, I believe, and it says interpreters. If you click that button, you will see our amazing American Sign Language interpreters that we have here with us today. And those, that interaction, that extra window, again, something that those co-hosts are going to be helping you facilitate. This is very important, and I hope if you all have were not able to watch Davita's presentation just before this, catch the recording, because she had a really excellent section on knowing your audience. So planning for any event, whether it's a big event or a small event, you want to know your audience. And I'm stealing this from Davita because I loved this. She said, especially if you don't know your audience, or if it's not possible for a large group like what we have here today, come into this with a bias towards accessibility. Let's start doing any and everything that we can think of to ensure the most accessible event possible. Now, if it's a smaller group, like a class environment or a team meeting, just getting to know everybody that's going to be in those meetings, getting to know if they have any specific accommodation needs, etc., can help you plan for future sort of recurring events. But if it's a large event like this one, we need to figure out a way to let folks know that resources are available. So example for this webinar, we planned in advance. We thought about this with a bias towards accessibility. We have our ASL interpreters. We have CART providers for accurate captions. We are trying to do everything we can in advance to make the most accessible event possible. But it is still good to make accommodation requests or notifications part of the registration process. And if you all think back to when you remembered or when you registered for this event, we had a question in there. If you have any specific accommodation needs for this event, let us know. We also announced we're going to have ASL, we're going to have CART, but if you need anything in addition to that, let us know and we will try to provide it for you. In addition to knowing your audience, you need to know your environments. This can be very vast, depending on if it's a totally virtual event like this one. Is it a hybrid event like many of the classes that we have on campus, where some folks are remote and some folks are face-to-face? So you need to be thinking about what the environment is that you're working in. So what are the attendees seeing? If they are in person in an office setting, so I have a picture here on the screen that's just a very generic meeting conference room with folks sitting around with their laptops. But if folks are in person like that, what are they seeing? Are they seeing everything on their individual laptops? Is there a television screen that they're looking at? Is everything easy to read for them in person? And are your virtual folks also able to see all of that content? This might come in if you are just projecting or recording like a whiteboard and you're in a classroom writing on a whiteboard. You want to make sure that the folks that are not in that room, your digital audience, is able to see everything that's being written on that whiteboard and fully follow along, just as the in-person folks are able to do. So that's where we want to think about, is crucial information shared as equally as possible. One of the best things that you can do as a presenter, and I'm going to sort of harp on this a couple of times today, and I'm confident that I have heard a couple of other folks say this in other presentations today as well, is dictate hard to see content in your presentation, read chat out loud, announce and describe any important visual information that you might have on your slides to ensure that everybody is included and everybody is getting access to that information. And don't forget to engage your local and remote viewers. Again, if this is a hybrid environment, it can be very easy to just focus on the couple of people that are in that conference room and neglect those that are joining you remotely via Zoom. So just trying to make sure to be aware of your audience and engage them equally. Event length. This is an easy one because I think we can all pretty much agree that attention span is pegging out at about 45 minutes. Once we start getting past 45 minutes, folks need to run to the restroom. We need to get up. We need to walk around. We just need that like mental checkout time to recoup and come back in. So think about the length of your event. Keep things as clear and concise as possible. Does it need to be 45 minutes? Could it be 30 minutes? Could it be a 15-minute meeting? The shorter, the better, as long as you're still getting all the information in there. But for the times it does need to run long, make sure that there are breaks. We worked very hard when we were planning the event today that we try to have at least 5 or 10 minutes between each of our major sessions to give everybody a chance to decompress a little bit. And that makes sure that when they come back for the rest of the sessions, that they are refreshed, renewed, and ready to go. So audio considerations. How is your audience able to access the audio content that you are providing to them in your presentations or in your virtual event? Sound quality. Test your microphones. This goes into the whole planning in advance thing. Make sure that you have a good quality microphone. If you are using something that needs to be charged or uses batteries, charge it up. Make sure that it is ready to go for the day of the event. And again, test if you can to ensure both hybrid, your in-person and your virtual folks can hear you. And if needed, they also have microphones available to speak back with you. Or if maybe your remote audience or maybe even the in-person audience does not have a microphone, they are able to type in Zoom, or you as the presenter repeat out any questions or concerns that your audience might have. Avoid loud environments. There is a non-zero chance that my dogs are going to ruin this for me because around 2:30 every day, my neighbor comes out and plays fetch with his dogs, and my dogs take offense to that. So we will see around 2:30 if that happens. And I am paying the dog tax. I have a picture here of my pit bull Bronwyn and my husky Indiana. So if you hear them beginning to sing the song of their people in about 15 minutes, I warned you, you know what, but try to avoid the loud environments when possible and check for background noise canceling options in your platform. Zoom actually has really good background noise canceling to where even if something sounds like it is right in your ear in person, your audience may not be hearing it at all because Zoom is doing some of that noise canceling. That's another thing that you can check if you aren't able to control the sound in your environment. Speak at a casual pace. This is probably the hardest one for me. I partly put this in here as a reminder. You got to fight that anxiety, slow down, speak at a casual pace. Don't speed through your information. One, you want to make sure your audience is able to follow along and fully understand and digest all of your information. And then don't forget, we have live humans over here doing American Sign Language interpretation, live human captioners typing away, trying to keep up with everything that I'm saying. So you don't want to drag on and be super slow, but that just casual pace and try to fight that anxiety that gets you to speaking really quickly. And then avoid talking over others in group settings. If you have like say a panel discussion or multiple people talking, try your best to be very cognizant of when other people are speaking, or have a facilitator, a moderator that calls on folks, because once people start talking over each other, even if totally unintentional, your audience is going to lose what's going on. It's going to start getting confusing to hear what's being said there. So being able to moderate group discussions so that folks aren't talking over each other can be very helpful as well. Descriptive language. And I know folks have talked about this in some other presentations, but I'm harping on this again. And really, it's hard to say. I couldn't decide if I wanted this to be an audio considerations or visual considerations, but I feel like it's sort of both. You want to describe the visual content that's on the screen out loud so that your folks can hear it and understand what you're showing on the screen. So verbally share visual, meaningful information, which is helpful for everybody. If someone cannot see what's on the screen, you are going to read it out to them. For instance, what you do not want to do is say, I have a pie chart on my screen that shows some information about fruit sales. As you can see, blueberries did great. The end. I mean, I'm missing a whole lot of information here, right? So I need to share that meaningful information. So I would say I have a pie chart on my screen that is showing that blueberries was 58% of all of the sales, followed by oranges at 23%, lemons at 9%, and then all of the other fruit kind of got lumped together at 10% of our overall summer sales. So I'm describing that entire graphic in a way, if you want to think about it, as I'm essentially verbalizing the alt text. It's the same, very similar. I think I have something almost very similar to that set as the alt text for this image. So the same reason you would put alt text on your images, same reason you want to describe the visual relevant information in your slides, presentations, etc. A couple of other people today have also mentioned about announcing who is speaking. For a webinar like this, it's generally pretty easy because we just have one moderator that comes in and talks, and then one presenter that's talking the rest of the time throughout a session. But we do always make sure to announce ourselves, and that's especially helpful if you have, again, like a round robin discussion. It'd be great for, to do something like, hey, this is Chelsea. Yeah, my opinion is this, that, or the other. And then maybe Cheryl would pop in and Cheryl would be like, yeah, this is Cheryl. My thought on this whole subject is X, Y, or Z. Just a little blurb, especially if it's to a larger audience who may not be able to immediately recognize you by your voice, can go a long way. If using a presentation or a digital document, like especially like a PDF or a Word document or something, and that's what you're displaying to the folks, it's a great idea to announce the page number. So if I'm showing you a PDF, I'd be like, okay, I'll go and look at page 2 here. So I'm on page 2. You should have a copy of it. Go to page 2. That allows them to look at it locally as well as on your screen, and it might be easier for them to follow along. Captions. I'm not going to dig into captions too much because we have had several folks today talk about captions, but let's talk about the bare bones basics here. Audio is not always accessible for folks for a variety of reasons that others have talked about in their presentations today. It could be that they are deaf or have low hearing or some other hearing disability. They might have an audio processing disability. They might be in a loud environment to where they can't hear what's going on very well. So captions help give that extra layer of accessibility. They're also required. So captions for all of your videos, whether they are live events or not, captions are required. So we need to figure out the best way to get those captions for your audience. And again, set up and test this in advance. There are, no matter what platform that you are on, of course, we're using Zoom today, but pretty much all of the major meeting style platforms, Zoom, GoToMeeting, Google Meets, etc., they all have captions available, but you need to know where those settings are, how to turn them on, and if there are any specific host settings that you have to do. Like, for instance, as we set up this webinar today, there may have been settings on the webinar end that we had to set up to make sure that our captioners were able to come in today and connect in and do the captioning that's required for this event. So ensure the platform supports your captions. What platform or client settings need to be used for captions, and test with your cart providers. So you may have heard a lot of other people talking about CART today, and I just want to mention, so CART is an acronym that stands for Communication Access Real-Time Translation. It's kind of an antiquated acronym, but essentially what it means is there is a live human person that is typing out your captions, which means it's good to test. Make sure that they have access that they need, make sure that they can connect over. There are some buttons that have to be pressed regardless of what platform you're on. So as you as the host or as you as the co-host, make sure you know where those buttons are, and making sure that there are troubleshooting folks available in case you run into any issues. It's also good to announce the availability of captions with instructions for accessing them. We have essentially done that, I believe, between like every single one of our sessions, where we announce that both we have ASL interpreters and captioning available to alert people to, hey, go to your client settings and turn these on if you need them. There may be folks who are not using Zoom every day or not using GoToMeetings or whatever your platform is. So they may not think to just automatically turn on those captions, but when you remind them about it, they'll remember, oh, that's right. Let me go check for those captions, or let me turn on the ASL interpreter window or something. And if it's a new event, it's always great for just giving those quick instructions of how to find the captioning. Because again, your entire audience may not be as savvy with whatever platform it is that you are presenting on. Now, transcripts, again, folks have been talking about transcripts all day today as well, but they can be created from the captions that you are creating in your event at any given time. So they probably, well, they will need to be edited, but those transcripts will be available, and Zoom has a whole transcript option available. I know on Zoom, if you wanted to check it out, you should be able to go to where the captions are, and I don't think I can do it because I'm actually presenting, but you should be able to go to where the caption options are and click view transcripts, and I think it'll show you a whole written transcript thing available there. I know it does it for auto captions, and now I'm second guessing myself as to whether it does it for our live human captioners or not, but the transcript should be there. So automatic captions versus CART or live human captions for your events that you are putting on. I still love what Davita said about plan with a sort of bias towards accessibility. Live human captioners are always going to be, well, I won't say always, maybe there'll be a time in the future where AI and automatically generated captions will be the best thing ever. But right now, they still have a lot of problems. And live human captioners are much more reliable. You can give them vocabulary in advance, such as names and unique spellings of names. You can give them all of those in advance to make sure that they're getting them correct. So live human captioners are best for, first off, large unknown audiences like you all. Thank you all for being here today. But there are 138 attendees here, and I probably know a handful of you all from UNC Chapel Hill, but I don't know everybody. So you are an unknown entity to me. So we made sure that when we put on this this event that we had those live human captioners available. Public events especially. Now, this is technically a public event, but you did have to register for it. So you at least had to go through clicking that you don't have any specific accommodation needs. But if you're just putting something out there like live streaming to YouTube or something like that, that's big public event that just anybody can join, yes, please get a live human captioner. The a live human captures, they're going to get the spelling much more right, the punctuation much more right, names are going to be more correct, and there's a lot less likely of a chance that really wrong and possibly embarrassing words might show up in your captions. There have been some really interesting words that I have seen show up in automatic captions before, and I certainly don't want some of these words to be coming from like the chancellor of UNC is giving a speech and really awkward stuff pops up because it misinterprets something that he's saying. A live human captioner is not going to do that. So again, that the high profile events like graduation, or in at UNC we say if the chancellor is speaking, yes, we're getting a live human captioner. If any large um, public style event, we're getting those live human captioners. Paid events and accommodation requests. I know it was mentioned previously that automatic captions still do not quite meet the standard for accessible captions. So if you have an accommodation request, then you have to get something better than just automatic captions, which is going to be those CART or live human captions. Now, auto captions are still a good starting point for certain things. Small known groups, like when my team at UNC meets, we're always on Zoom, and Zoom has the option to turn on those auto captions, which is great just for my small 4-person team. It could be fine for, for other groups. Again, it goes back to knowing your audience, private conversations, one-on-one type things. The captions still need to be there. They're still required if you're having a video conference. But auto captions are generally okay, assuming that there are, again, not accommodation needs or requests from either party. Auto captions are also great for if there is absolutely nothing else. Like most platforms will have some sort of automatic captions available. Zoom does. If we could not come up with the funding for CART captions, we had a whole discussion about, well, maybe we could just use Zoom automatic captions, assuming we didn't have any accommodation requests. But really, auto captions should be the last ditch. It's better than nothing, but they're still not as good as I really would like them to be. But hopefully they'll start getting better. So your live events, there is room for error. Even with our live human captioners, they're only human. They will make mistakes. Probably less mistakes than the automatically generated captions do. But we do not have that leeway when we have pre-recorded video. So for instance, after today's sessions, we are going to take all of the captions from these sessions and we are going to go through them and clean them up and make sure that they are fully accurate. So pre-recorded videos for any of your events need to have accurate edited captions, making sure that speaker identification, relevant sound effects are added, timing is correct, and check your spelling and punctuation. So again, while live events have some flexibility for just human error, etc., when you are putting up a pre-recorded video after the fact, we are aiming for as close to 100% accurate captions as possible. And I think it was David that had the no, it was Nathan. Can't think of the names. The one who did the presentation earlier for Nathan. Yes, I'm sorry.
Nathan.
Yep, I don't know why I was thinking David. Nathan, who did the presentation earlier about the how to go through and clean up the captions and had some videos and things there. Pretty much every platform, almost every platform that allows caption generation will have a way for you to edit the captions after the fact. All right, so visual and interactive considerations. What is the audience seeing and how are they interacting with the content? Chats. Chats can be great, as we saw in the last presentation with Davita, for group interactions and just activities to go to for everybody to engage with. But just be aware that chat can be distracting to your users. Now, I put on the slide that chat can be distracting to screen reader users, which is true because depending on the screen reader user's client settings, every time somebody says something in chat, it might be reading in their ear, talking over the presenter who's trying to talk. And that can just get a little cumbersome rather. But really, chat can also be distracting for a little bit of everybody. It's something to be aware of. I know every time if I have chat open, if I see a new chat message come up, I immediately have to go read that chat message, and then my brain is disconnecting from what the presenter is talking about. So chat is a great feature and it should be used, but be aware of some of the accessibility caveats that might come in there. So a couple of things that you can do to help alleviate some of those accessibility concerns. And Davita, again, did a great job in her presentation. Read aloud the items that are put in chat, those relevant items. Now, she wasn't able to read every single one of them because y'all were awesome with your participation, and there was lots of chatter coming in through the chat there. But she was able to go through and read out the most relevant things so that if someone's not directly following along with chat, they're still able to follow along with the overarching parts of the conversation. Also, share any links out that are shared via the chat afterwards. We are trying to do that for the major things like our PowerPoint presentations, etc. We're going to be making sure to share all of that stuff out with everybody after the fact. And then you can also save the chat. Now, let's see, there should be an option in Zoom where there's like 3 little dots, and you can go down in the chat window for Zoom and go to the 3 dots and click on save chat. So if there's a lot of information that's going on there that you want to save for future reference, you'll be able to do that. Polls. This is a feature that's in Zoom, and I know it's in, what was it? Was it Google Meet? It was something else that I was in that wasn't Zoom recently. It might have even been Teams, that had a poll-like feature. And again, polls can be great for interactive style things where you're really wanting feedback from your audience. But just be aware whenever you are doing something that requires interaction, that we need to be thinking accessibly and how people are going to be interacting with it. So first of all, if people are joining your event via their phone, they may not have easy access to answering poll questions that pop up. A lot of times I notice that people might join events like this, for instance, while they're in their car and their phone's off and they're just listening. So that means they may not be able to interact. So one of the things about polls is you want to give multiple modes of interaction where possible. Allow people to answer the poll, but also if for some reason they can't access the poll, let them know what the question is and see if they can put they could type in chat what their answer is. So they could either choose to use the poll or they could choose to use chat. Just give them multiple ways of interaction so they can pick the one that's the most accessible for them. Now, for your polls, you also want to allow enough time. And this, I will say, is arguably the hardest one, I think, for a presenter to do. Because when you launch a poll, first off, you want to announce that I'm getting ready to launch a poll and it's going to have this many questions in it. And this is what I want you to do. I'm going to give you about a minute or 2 to answer the questions. You say everything you need to say and then zip it and launch your poll. You don't want to be talking over that poll that's been launched. People are trying to read the poll, interact with it, and if you're talking over it, that's a lot of clutter that's coming in that's going to be hard for them to focus. It's just a struggle. So announce that the poll's coming, then zip it and launch your poll. And now you as the presenter get to sit for what seems like an eternity in silence. You just sit there and wait, and you'll have a little poll window and it's got the timer ticking down and it will have a number of people who are answering your poll. but it's really important to be quiet. Let your audience find the poll window, read the question, figure out how to interact with it, and just understand that it could be an uncomfortable 45 seconds to a minute while you're waiting for that, but your audience will appreciate it after the fact. And then once the poll is done, you can share the poll results with your audience. But just as anything else that we are putting up on the screen, even though you are putting up the visual results of the poll, you will want to verbally announce what's happened in the poll, what were the main results of the poll, etc. Backgrounds. So backgrounds, it's what we have set up here, where we've got, oops, over here, Join the Journey, June 10th, 2025, and our little NC Higher Ed Digital Accessibility Collaborative logo over here. We designed this in a very specific way several years ago to avoid it being too busy. It is a nice neutral color in the background so that regardless of what people are wearing as presenters, it should look good on their background. There is no movement in it. You really want to avoid movement in your backgrounds when possible. I remember back in 2020, I think, when everybody was on Zoom, COVID had happened, over around the Christmas time, they had the UNC mascot Ramses like all in the suit and stuff, and you could get a Zoom background that had him like walking around or leaning up against a fireplace and putting ornaments on a Christmas tree. It was adorable, but everybody complained because now you're just watching Ramses walk around behind somebody's head instead of listening to their presentation. So don't take for granted how distracting movement can be in your background. There was another presentation I was at, and it was so hilarious. It was a lady that was talking, and it was this wonderful presentation, but she had a clock that was on a shelf right here behind her. And the clock had this blinking light on it. And it was like mesmerizing to me because it had these big red numbers, and I was just sitting there watching the clock blink. And every time, it would turn over and change the numbers on the clock. It was super distracting. So keeping your nice, simple, clean backgrounds, your audience will thank you. You also want to think about what your background is going to be and what you are wearing to stand off of the background. We picked this background, so it should be pretty neutral. But for instance, like if in the screenshot I have here, I have a UNC blue, Carolina blue background. I wouldn't want to be wearing a Carolina blue shirt in front of the Carolina blue background. It just doesn't stand off as much, doesn't look as nice and clean. Screen sharing, which we have been doing an exorbitant amount of today. You want to ensure that your screen sharing content meets all of the accessibility requirements that we think of, such as good color contrast, easy to read text and fonts. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure to describe the meaningful visual information that you are sharing on your screen. If you are sharing some sort of audio, video, etc., make sure that you turn on share computer sound. We've had a couple of videos and presentations earlier today. We had to make sure the share computer sound was on. If you are sharing a PowerPoint presentation like this, or you're linking to a website, share those things in chat. We have been sharing links to our files. You can find the links to our PowerPoints on the conference website. And if we have any special files, any PDFs or anything we want to show off during our presentations, we're also linking those to you so that you're able to follow along on your end as well. So duplicate as best you can whatever you're showing in the presentation, share that out with your audience. Annotations. This is an interesting feature that I think Zoom is the only one that hasn't. Teams might have it. But annotations is a very neat and fun interactive feature that you can do on a shared screen or just on a whiteboard, what Zoom calls it, where folks in the audience can turn on their little pencils and pens and stamps and put and literally write on the screen or stamp on the screen. So, for instance, I have a screenshot up here showing a picture from the UNC graduation, and somebody has written "Go Heels," and somebody's put a whole bunch of little heart emojis all over the screen, etc. So, it's a way of facilitating sort of feedback from your audience. But very similar to polls and chat in a way, it's best not to require participation when possible, especially again if it's not a known audience. People may not be familiar with the tool and they will spend more time trying to figure the tool out than actually being able to interact with you and participate in the event. Um, and give them multiple modes of interaction. Perhaps if instead of using the annotations, let them type in chat what they want to add to the conversation. And then you as the presenter, make sure that you're announcing all of this. Whatever is getting put in chat that's relevant, you're reading back out. The important information that's getting added by the annotations on the screen, you're announcing that as well, so that everybody is able to understand and engage with what's going on the screen. All right, the last little section I have here is know your tools. So we're using Zoom today. So I've used Zoom for a lot of the examples that I've talked about just because we're here and we can click around in it. But know the platform that you're going to be working on because they're all going to have their own strengths and weaknesses. The first thing that you want to check is what are the accessibility settings and how do you get to them for the platform that you are using. My office recommends Zoom because Zoom has just really good, solid accessibility tools and features. But regardless of what platform you're using, like I know some big webinars that I've been to recently have they're like web apps where everything is encompassed in a web app, like separate from something like Zoom or whatnot. So you want to go in as your presenter, as being a presenter or a host, knowing what you're getting into with all of the accessibility settings. In the video that was shown earlier for Zoom, that it showed how you can move your caption around. So if you turn on your captions here today, your closed captions, you can click on that little box and drag it around your screen to wherever works for you. You can change the size of your captions, etc. Zoom also has a ton of really great screen reader alerts that users, the end user, can control. They can turn them on or off, whatever works best for them. This goes back to where I was saying some folks might turn off chat so that they don't know that chat's even happening. They're not getting alerted to it in their screen reader because it's distracting to them. Keyboard shortcuts, this just goes hand in hand with the part that I was mentioning before, making sure that you know or at least are familiar of where to find all of the keyboard shortcuts and letting your audience know where to find these, especially if you are doing troubleshooting as a co-host, so that if someone has a specific question, you can point them in the right direction for those keyboard shortcuts. Lastly, some miscellaneous tips. Remind folks to keep up with software updates. If someone joins Zoom and they haven't updated Zoom in the last 8 months, there is a chance that something's not going to work right, and that's going to be troubleshooting on everybody's part. So you yourself try to keep all of your stuff updated, but remind your attendees, whatever platform you're on, remind them to keep things updated. Also, keep in mind, depending on what your event is, that not all attendees may want or be able to turn their videos on for a variety of reasons. So again, it just goes to that multiple modes of interaction, unless it's a specific setting like a classroom or something where they're required to turn their cameras on for whatever reason. Just know that some attendees may not always turn their videos on, and that's okay. Learn about all of the other extra platform features, like for instance, Zoom allows participants to rename themselves. So like I renamed myself to have my full name, UNC Chapel Hill, and my pronouns she, her. And as I mentioned earlier, the movable scale. Oh, look at that. Saleable captions. Should say scalable captions. I found my only typo. But that is it. Thank you all so much. If you have any questions about this or other topics, we're happy to chat with you. You can email us at digital_accessibility@unc.edu.
Thank you, Chelsea. You do have some questions.
Awesome.
Let me start. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not. This is from Danielle Gunter. Does Teams have similar noise canceling background like Zoom? Many organizations like universities can no longer use Zoom for hybrid meetings.
As far as I know, yes. You're going to want, I don't have Teams open in front of me right now, but you should be able to go to your settings and find wherever your audio settings are, like for your microphone, etc. And you're looking for something called noise suppression or something along those lines. I do think Teams has it, but don't quote me on that. Google will know more than I do for that question, but I do think it does.
Okay, thank you. From an anonymous attendee. So is it not, in quotes, allowed, accessible to use AI captioning for large live stream events and then go back and edit the captions post-event? I doubt we have the bandwidth to have live human captioning for our numerous events that are public facing.
That's a really great question, and this is where we have to pick our battles. And this is, have your internal conversations. I sort of hit on this a little bit, but AI or automatically generated captions are better than nothing, right? It's better than having absolutely nothing out there, but they don't quite meet the standard for the requirement for accessible captions. But I do also understand there's the, like you mentioned, the bandwidth issue of the funds, especially for live human captioners, can get a little they can get a little expensive. So pick your battles. I would suggest figuring out what are your most high profile events, what you can budget for, and try to ensure that the platforms that you are using have the best automatic captions available to them. I know Zoom captions are really solid. That's what we use most of the time in my team. So I can't say for a lot of the other platforms. It's better than Teams, but Teams isn't horrible. But yeah, if you were at UNC Chapel Hill, we could have a more specific discussion about the events. But I would say reach out to your accessibility professionals on your campus and get some insight on what they would consider a high priority event and where those paid for captions might need to come in.
Thank you. Another anonymous attendee posted a question, and I want to make my organization more accessible, but I am often severely limited by financial constraints. This goes to the last question. How large of an event requires a live human captioner? I regularly host 60 to 100 people seminars, and my project doesn't have the budget for a live human captioner. Any thoughts on this? I know that accommodations are always a priority. As a disabled person, I absolutely know this, but management does not always agree, especially in these times when money is tight, but we have to have these events to justify the budget. Sorry for the long question.
That's a fantastic question. It goes hand in hand with the question that we had just before that. Yes, of course, accommodations are always the priority. And this goes all the way back to something I had mentioned at the beginning about knowing your audience. Let the audience of these seminars know at the bare minimum, you're going to be, and I'm making this up, but let's say you're going to be using Zoom. Automatic captions will be available. If you have any specific accommodation needs or requests, let us know at least 5 days in advance or something like that. So that way, if someone has an accommodation need specifically for a live human captioner, you will have time and you can try to budget for that. But, in a perfect world, first off, AI captions would be 100% and we wouldn't have to worry about it. Or we would have unlimited funds for accessibility because it is the right thing to do and we should make all of our events accessible. But you have to pick your battles, figure out which hill you're going to die on, so to speak, and think about what events that absolutely need those live human captioners and which ones you can fall back on automatic captioning. But of course, cleaning up the captions after the fact is going to have to happen regardless.
Okay. I I think this is just to the hosts, and the other one said that answers my question about the money versus accessibility question.
Yeah, that's the most common question I get for captions because they are not cheap. Whether you get paid live human captioning or even paid accurate captions for pre-recorded video, there's a budget cost that is required there. So talk to your accessibility professionals on campus, plan and decide which ones are going to float to the top and be the most high priority for those paid captions, and then talk to your audience and see where accommodation needs come in.
Are there any other questions for Chelsea? Well, we thank you, Chelsea, for all that important information, useful information, I should say. If you have any other questions, I'm sure that Chelsea wouldn't mind you reaching out to email her at digital.accessibility@unc.edu.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cheryl.
We are coming up on the end of another great conference. Actually, I've got a slide here that I want to share. Here we go. Just our thank you slide. I want to thank you all for attending today. As I said, we're coming up on the end of another great conference. This is our 5th year hosting this conference, putting this together. And as we've said every year, accessibility work is a journey. A lot has changed and shifted with digital accessibility in the past 5 years, but what really seems to, I guess, be consistent, or at least I think we can say it's been consistent in these 5 years, the journey is still necessary. And so the journey continues. And it does help to collaborate and share with others as we address accessibility. So definitely seek out partners on your campus. And if you haven't already done so, join us here at NC HEDAC to stay connected and share with others across the state. And you can email, I'll post the email address in the chat here, but it's also there on the screen. If you just want to email us, we can add you to the group, and you can get lots of great information. We have monthly meetings. We have a listserv, and so you can just join us and share in that journey.
Wonderful. And now we know what time it is. So I need to ask all of our amazing conference planning group folks to please turn on your camera. And I'm going to go through and just take a moment to spotlight everybody. We've got a large group here. So as y'all get your cameras turned on, I'll come through. And you all help me spotlight because we've got a lot of folks. But so if everybody gets their cameras turned on, I think I have everybody. There's Rebecca, and Eudora had to step out. I think she is the only one that we got. Let's make sure we get May in here as well. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that everybody in our glorious conference planning team is here. Please, I know you all are on the other side of your screens, but if we could give our conference planning group a round of applause. This is no small lift to put together, even a small conference like this. It takes a whole lot of time, effort, and behind the scenes work to get everything to go off as smoothly as possible. So thank you all for keeping things running as smoothly today as we have, and for all of the pre-conference work. I also want to thank our CART captions provider and ASL interpreters. Our CART was sponsored by 3Play Media and UNC Chapel Hill, and ASL services were sponsored by our parent organization, UNC Cause. We are thankful for their support in making today more accessible, and thanks again to our presenters who donated their time and expertise to share with this wonderful audience today. And thank you all so much for attending. We do plan on having our 6th annual event next year at around the same time of year, so keep an eye out for that. We will email you and spam you about registering around April, May of next year or so. We hope you all will be able to join us again. Thank you all so very much. Keep an eye on our conference website where we will be posting recordings of all of the videos, and there will be links to the slides and things there as well from the presentations today. Again, thank you all for making this a wonderful and very successful conference.